In today's video, we're going to show you how to install an in-power transmission pan upgrade in your BMW F30. Now, as long as you have an 8-speed automatic, this video is going to work for you, whether you have a 328, a 335, a 330, or even a 340. So with that, let's get started. Now with today's kit, it includes all of the physical hardware that you're going to need. Every gasket, nut, bolt, everything you could possibly need for this. You will also need some fluid. We're going to be using some LiquiMoly 1800 ATF fluid. Then the last thing you're going to need is some type of software that is going to tell you what your transmission temperature is. We personally like ProTool, so we're going to show you how to use that in today's video. We will be using a lift. You do not need a lift, but you need to make sure that you are lifting your car as even as possible. So what we would recommend is, if you're going to be doing it with a jack and jack stands, use 4. Make sure that you get everything nice and level. It's very important when it comes to properly filling the transmission. The first thing we need to do is remove the underbody protection. It's typically held in with one 10 mil and then the rest are 8s. Once you get it undone, what you want to do is just twist it, drop it down. All right, once you've done that, we need to remove this piece of heat shielding. There are 3 13mm bolts that hold it in place, so at this time, go ahead and remove them. Quick little tip here. One of the most important things that you can do, go over to your oil fill plug and you want to remove it. This is going to show you 2 things. A, if it's seized, you didn't just drain all your trans fluid out and then you're like, crap, now what? Also, it allows air to get into the system and allows you to have a much better flow. So make sure you have some kind of oil pan under this. Oh, holy cow, that's tight. Oh my gosh. Woo! Good thing I had my pan here. Wow, that stuff's pouring out of there. Now grab your 10mm Allen. This is going to go in the plastic drain plug. Again, why would you use a plastic drain plug? What we're gonna do now is start to release some of these bolts over on this side. We're gonna loosen them all, but the plan is to just kind of rock it down and let this thing just continue to drip and drain. Now, when I do this, what I typically like to do is not use a power tool, because you don't want to strip anything or break a head off or anything, especially if anything gets seized. So I always like to just do it by hand at first, because if you mess up any of these threads, you're not going to have a great day. So what I'm gonna do now, you can see we have some pretty decent flow coming out of here. I'm just gonna let it hang out for a minute so that we can just drain as much as possible and really reduce our spillage. All right, look at that. All right, I'm just gonna kind of let this hang out here, and it'll kind of act as a little bit of a funnel. The next part of the process is we need to get some brake cleaner and make sure that we really clean off where the gasket's going to go. You want to make sure that you don't skip this step, because you don't want to go through all of this work just to have it leak again. So make sure you're very diligent in cleaning all this up. All right, so when you're doing this, again, make sure everything is nice and clean. Make sure that the gasket came off with the old pan. So here you can see the old pan and the new pan. What we need to do now is we need to take the included filter system, which is this piece over here, and the actual filter, and we need to bolt it up. Then what we're going to do is we are going to lubricate the O-ring. It's always best to use whatever fluid you're going to be using. So in this case, we're using automatic transmission fluid. So just take a little bit of that, lubricate the ring. That's going to go straight up there. And then I'm going to show you the torque sequence. All right, so now what you're going to do is take your filter, you're going to put it down, and then place that on top like that. And then you're going to find these little black T25 bolts. These are going to get torqued down to 4 Newton meters. All right, so for this, we are using LiquiMoly TopTech 1800. Being that we use transmission fluid quite a bit, we have an abnormally large container, but don't worry because we do have actual liters and reasonable size containers of LiquiMoly on our site, which is linked below. So I just need a little bit of transmission fluid, but I want to make sure that I'm using fresh fluid. And really, all I'm doing right here is just trying to get enough to lubricate this O-ring. I'm going to put this on here so it doesn't get everywhere. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 4 of the new bolts, always use the bolts that are provided, and I'm going to press this straight up, making sure that this O-ring isn't going to get pinched, and then I'm going to put these there just to hold it. Then I'll put all the other ones in, and then I'll show you how to torque it down. You should hear it just kind of flop into place. It's a technical term. And when you're doing this, you want to go as even as possible, which is why I kind of started with 4. We'll get this decently close, and then we'll just do a little bit at a time, just using hand tools. If you take a look over at my phone here, we have the torque sequence. This is all torqued down to 10 Newton meters. So start at 1, go to 2, go to 3, so forth, all the way through. It looks like there's 13 total. I normally do it at least one more time just to make sure I didn't miss anything and everything's good. So at this time, let's have a torque party. Click. 1, 2, 3. All right, time to put some more gloves on because it's fill time. I guess it's probably important that we put the magnetic drain plug in here before we start filling it. But we need to put this in, and this needs to get torqued down to 12 Newton meters. Perfect. All right, so now that we have everything torqued down, it is time to add our fluid. We're using LiquiMoly TopTech 1800 ATF fluid. So what we're gonna do is we are going to basically fill it into the fill hole using our little automotive syringe here. And we're going to fill it until it starts to pour out. And then we're gonna put the plug in, we're gonna put the car down. You have to bring the car up to temperature. And then from there, we'll continue. We have one more fill process. We'll walk you through the process every step of the way. So let's start by adding roughly 4 liters. For this whole project, it's good to have about 7 on hand because that's about how much the system holds. So let's get this filled up until it starts to overflow, and then I'll show you what to do next. And this is about 500 cc, so it's about a ½ liter every time I fill it, so we can keep track of how many of these we need to throw into here. If you are doing this from home, I highly recommend this syringe we got. It was on Amazon, it was like 20 bucks. But we got the 500 cc one this time. We normally use one that's a lot smaller, and you just have to fill it so much more, so definitely worth the 20 bucks or whatever it was to get one of these. Here goes 7.
There it goes.
Roughly 3.5 liters. All right, so then you're gonna take the new included drain plug. All right, so what I just did is I just literally hand tightened it. I'm just gonna tighten it ever so slightly with my setup over here. I really don't want this to be too tight because we are gonna have to pull it off in just a second. So let me just snug this up ever so slightly. And then what we need to do is we need to get the transmission up to temperature. And then from there, we're going to be able to go through the gears and all that kind of stuff. Make sure that the fluid's getting into everything. And then we're gonna do a final fill, then a test drive, and then all of that. And then we'll be good. All right, so now that we've done our first fill, we need to get our transmission oil temperature up to about 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. So to be able to register that, or be able to read it, I'll say, we're going to use ProTool, which is a program from BimmerGeeks, does everything from coding, diagnostics, and more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Kies Wi-Fi ENET adapter here, plug this in, and I'm going to go into my Wi-Fi settings, connect to it. All right, so once I have everything plugged in, I'm just gonna hit connect, make sure your car is in accessory mode. It's going to identify all of the modules and everything. Then we're going to go to the transmission menu. Okay, so here's our main menu. go down to where it says transmission. Then you're gonna go to live data. I'm gonna go down here and I want to know oil temperature transmission. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna confirm and we are going to start log. So right now you can see that it is 17 degrees Celsius. And we need that to be between 30 and 40. Now, while the car is getting up to temperature to where we can appropriately refill, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cycle through some of the gears, and this is going to make sure that all of the fluid is getting into all the solenoids and everything that it needs to do. So I'm gonna put it in drive for a little bit, wait, I don't know, 5-10 seconds or so. I'll put it in neutral. Make sure your foot's on the brake so you're not rolling. Even though I do have the wheels off the ground, we're still making sure we're doing that. Just make sure you're not getting any weird errors or anything like that as well. Okay, I'll go back to drive. Another thing I'm going to do, because I do have paddle shifters, go through a bunch of these gears. Now, a lot of times it's only going to let you go through M1 and M2, but I'm still just gonna shift through all of these as much as it will let me. And then after we're done the second fill, most likely off camera because we're filming other things today, we're going to go just make sure that you shift through all the way through 8th gear just to make sure that everything is good, make sure that there's no errors or anything like that. All right, because I do have the wheels off the ground, I am going to roll around a little bit. All right, we're at 22 degrees. I had the wheels off the ground, I was able to get it up to 8th gear. Everything was super smooth, no issues. 23 degrees, so little ways to go. So we'll come back once we hit 30. 30 degrees, thanks to ProTool. So now let's put the car back up in the air. Keep in mind, your oil temperature is gonna be around 86 to 90 degrees at 30, well, 31 now. This looks like it's going up a little bit. So be careful that you don't get burnt, but let's take care of part 2 of filling the trans. All right, so now we're going to take the drain plug back out, and then we'll be able to pump some more fluid in here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna basically fill it up until it starts spilling out. It's not very scientific. It's not like when you do an engine oil change where it's like, put 6 liters in or whatever. It's like, fill it up till it comes out, and then heat it up, and then fill it up until it comes out. So it should be bone dry when I pull this out. Good, it worked. And then this gets tightened down to 35 Newton meters. Okay, so now I'm just going to clean up any trans fluid that has spilled. I love the way this looks. All right, so once you have ensured that you have the proper fluid level, you can reinstall your underbody protection. No errors, everything seems smooth. Last thing we need to do is do a test drive, but we're gonna do that after this because we have the car on the lift. It's a little bit of a pain to get on the lift, and we have 2 more things that involve draining oil and coolant, so we're gonna leave it staying put here. So as you just saw, installing the InPower upgraded transmission pan was a very easy project to do from home. You don't need all that many special tools, and the ones you do, well, they're pretty affordable, and it makes this a great DIY project, and you could save a lot of money versus if you went to BMW and had them do it. Once again, my name is Brian, that's Zach over there behind the camera. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe. Check the links down in the description because down there, we're gonna have not only links to the products we use in today's video, but a link to our main channel, Kies Motorsports, where we have epic videos and huge transformations on cars like this. Thanks for watching, we'll see you in the next video.